Hola, guys. Saturday, you guys might have seen. Oh, hold on. Fix my camera. Too much of my torso is showing. It's just, you're trying to get, I don't want you guys staring at my belly button. So let's see. Saturday, I sent this a post out that was like, I was super passionate, right? And I am passionate about that subject, but you start to realize a little bit more about yourself when certain things happen. And after that day on Saturday, I ended up having a conversation with a friend of mine for we talked on the phone for like 3 hours. And something that I realized, and this is why, because I've always, if you guys watch my channel, you know that I kind of talk about money a lot. But why I don't ever feel like I could charge for a service, but always being open to receive, right? You're always open to receive, and you're always providing something for the public, which all of us are trying to provide something. Anyway, we were talking about basically letting things go and making sure that that what other people are doing aren't affecting your own state of mind or who you think you are, right? Because if you buy into the projections of other people, you're usually carrying a pain, and then whatever pain that you're holding on to will get projected into your environment. It's easy to say that, but most of us are so unconscious of the pain that we're carrying, in some way, shape, or form. And that pain always comes from some kind of judgment of the self, judgment of the people around you. And I realized that a lot of the pain he was experiencing, I was resonating with a small portion of it. I realized that when I was so passionate when I made that post, it was because there's still a part of me, even though I knew this constantly, there was still a part of me that had some kind of attachment to what other people were doing and not doing. And as soon as I realized that, I became aware of it and let go of that. It was like I went through this. I mean, my heart chakra just went exploded. I'll try and explain it in the best way I know how, but I want to back it up with a story so that you guys understand what all this is, right? I mean, everything is the same. All of us are accessing this reality through a vessel, and that vessel is vibrating at a frequency to access it at whatever it's. All of us are creating our reality to the level of our own understanding. Let's put it that way. And the way you see the world around you is being impacted by the way you see yourself. That's how you'll see everything else. A lot of people see things as good and bad because we still haven't really understand. You don't get to look at the bigger picture. It's hard to see the bigger picture if you're constantly falling into judging one thing as good or bad. Now, there's two different things. There's judgment and discernment. So discernment is being able to discern the state of something's awareness. Judgment puts a barrier between you and something else. When you judge it, you're putting a barrier between it, which there is none, right? I mean, if everything comes from source and goes back to source, in the moment, everything is interconnected instantaneously. So every point of judgment creates an illusion of separation that creates pain somewhere around your heart space. Every single boundary we have is around our heart. And because everything in every reality exists at the center of your heart, instantaneously connected with everything else. Now, in reality, it's everywhere other point also. But in your own biofield, everything comes from and goes back to your heart. So that's where you connect with everything. Purely scientific. When you try to create religion around something, it always creates judgment because you're always elevating something else from a position of where you're at, which is false. Everything is just growing from a lower state of awareness to a higher state of awareness. That's what everything is, right? I mean, the entire story of evolution, from rocks to bugs to, single cell amoeba to creatures crawling out of the ocean, all of it was an expansion of awareness that manifested itself in physical form. How can I say that? Well, expansion of awareness is just moving more energy and information in the vessel. So the vessel has to change structurally to do that. Epigenetics is a perfect example. If you guys want to find a way to support me, order my book, read my book. I mentioned Joe Disparza and Bruce Lipton, the guy that promotes epigenetics, because now they're finding out that you can actually change your DNA in this lifetime. Your DNA is just a picture of the structure that's moving energy and information in the body. So your body is both holding and moving energy and information. And the more that you hold, the less you're able to move, right? The more you move, the less you are able to hold. And you grow older as you move more. I mean, you stay younger as you move more. And what makes you grow older is if you're moving less, right? If you're moving less and you're just holding information, then you're less of a channel. You're not moving energy in the body. The process of moving energy and information or light is what connects you with more of the whole. So that's why eating, when I talk about eating and fasting, just that process of eating, you're holding information. You have to break all of that down. Your body turns it into waste. And the act of doing that actually allows you to move less light in the system, because you have to break something down internally. So feeding energetically off of other people always comes from some kind of judgment, some point of separation in your mind. And unrealizingly, I had been doing that unconsciously. I was so passionate, right, about make sure you're creating, create what it is that you have to create for other people, right? Instead of feeding off of one another. But even that, in and of itself, is trying to impact you in some way to create an outcome. When I don't care. I do care and I don't care, right? Because you have to be educate. So, hey, this is because you really care about the people around you, right? You want people to be free. Everyone wants to be free, right? That's what we want more than anything in this world, is to be able to be free and live our dreams and live in a world that's free of conflict, right? And the only thing that puts us in conflict is when there's some kind of judgment, right? It's the Bible tells the perfect story from beginning to ending. The original sin, which it's not a sin, it's just a lower state of understanding, because everything is that, right? When you see animals feeding on each other, they are buying into some kind of illusion of separation. If I don't eat that thing, I'm going to starve and die, right? Everything is that way. And so it grows energetically until you're moving so much energy and information. There's still a last few remnants of that lower mentality left, where it feels like you're not whole. You need that thing in your external environment, or you're not whole. So, I mean, that's what all this is, right? We're going through this huge stage of evolution. If you look at our own geological record, how we evolved, you got, say, Neanderthal man, and then Cro-Magnon man moved more energy and information in the body. It was able to interact and impact its environment more. So as organisms grow in awareness, it means that since you're moving more energy and information, it means that you can impact your environment more than something that has a lower awareness. For example, what is impacting our planet more than humans? Nothing that I'm aware of. And so as you move down, it may be a very intelligent organism, but as the organism grows more powerful, its projections grow more powerful. And if it's buying into any kind of illusion of separation, it's impacting itself worse, right? It's clashing, banging against each other. And that's why you see, like, wars are a classic example of that, where people are making judgments about something else or falling into a false identity, which is outside of wholeness. A false identity is always some kind of identity that takes you outside of the whole. You describe yourself as an American or a Canadian or a Chiefs fan, right? It could be anything, really could be. And by identifying yourself in anything kind of separate thing, it will put you at odds with people that identify with something else, right? You're making a judgment. Now, you might not say, okay, well, maybe that's not a bad thing to say that I'm a Chiefs fan. But when it forces you to look at somebody else in a negative light, you're creating a judgment in the mind. And you, generally speaking, it most of the time will, right? If I say, I love the Seahawks, that means that I have to not love something else, if that makes sense. Now, if you just love everything equally and understand that it's all just growing and just, blossoming into wholeness and becoming, that's what a higher state of awareness is, right? Your higher self is the state of consciousness of everything. So as long as you're falling out of judgment in the mind, it pulls it into your heart space, because your mind is blocking your higher self from coming in if you're falling into judgment in any way. And then it becomes much easier to discern where people are at, right? If they're creating any kind of judgments of their environment at all. It pulls you out of peace. It will take you out of a peaceful, Zen-like meditative state. And so that's what I was talking about when the Buddha, the Lotus Sutra, the lotus flower blossoms. And you're just like, your tongue falls out. You're just like, bleh. Because you finally gotten to a point where, and that's why the Buddha palm is up, not only are you falling outside of judgment, the judgments of others no longer affect you. The hand goes up. Because you understand that it's just coming from a lower state of awareness. It's the same thing happens, when we're growing into a group consciousness, becoming more co-creative. That co-creative cycle is going to start working here fairly soon. I don't know if it'll be this year or next year. It's just, I am educated. So, that's what I was so passionate about, because I would love to work with people, other people, but you can't work with other people if they're not in that state. Because if you're creating a judgment of anything, for one thing, it's going to affect what you are creating, and it's going to negatively try and pull energy from the people around you. One thing that I understood more than anything from that discussion with my buddy, and this is what brought me into that state of awareness, was that it doesn't matter who you're talking to, how you need to ask for help, because I ask for help all the time. Hey, can you help me do something? I would love to exchange energies with you, hear your point of view on something. Every single interaction is teaching you more about yourself, and it doesn't matter if you're the one giving help or receiving it. So in reality, every single interaction that we go through is helping both parties. Because even if you're helping somebody, you're learning about yourself, and you're coming into deeper realizations of how you're channeling what they need, whether or not you're trying to lift yourself up above somebody else, which you don't want to. Because if you're doing that, you're ignoring what I just said, right? There isn't anybody that's in a state that is less than another state than another. It's just a state of awareness of how much pain you're holding on to, and a separation anxiety of the mind. That's not a lesser state. All of creation goes through it. You and I chose to incarnate in lesser forms through all of time and space. Literally, everybody that you look at, you're looking into your own eyes, living a different story in a different state of awareness. It really is amazing when you think about it, right? Because there's only one God, and all of it is being expressed in an infinite number of ways, growing back into that original state. So I just say, I knew you before the founding of the world, because at the beginning we are one, and at the ending we are one, and then everything in between is something different. We're just re-experiencing every possible state of separation that you could possibly imagine. Pretty simple message, right? I mean, it's very unique. But then it also opens up ways for creation and co-creation. And once you get into that state, and now you're no longer in conflict with anything, especially yourself. I mean, you're always in, you don't realize it, but you're always in conflict with yourself. I mean, if you can project it out to other people and say, oh, I'm in conflict with that person, but you're not. You never are. It's always happening just in your mind, and then that's creating a way that you're energetically feeding off of your environment instead of creating out of your heart space. That's all that's happening. Because there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with anything, right? It's just growing. Doesn't matter what it is. And a lot of times we get caught into limited perspectives where we're like seeing things from just a short time span, right? And it for one thing, you can look at the most hardened criminal in the world, right? Somebody that just is attacking their environment, just going crazy. And whatever they've chosen, their higher self has chosen for that to experience in this reality, maybe that soul will move through 1,000,000 lifetimes in order to get to some point of enlightenment where it's no longer attacking its environment. Who knows? It's all part of you and me, right? And so we are going to create heaven on earth here, but it's going to be a manifestation of the inner state that you get here. I was actually talking about that with somebody that I know on LinkedIn today, who gave me a video of Putin's interview with Tucker Carlson. And I guess, he was talking about consciousness development and actually the history of Russia and why they moved into the Ukraine in the first place. But I can tell you that nobody, if Putin had gotten to a certain state of awareness, that he would move out of that position and he would just start, he got elected as a leader, but, that did he want that job or did they force it into him? Right. For one thing, I will never tell anybody that I'm your boss. No way. I'm never going to do that. The only thing that I want is to create heaven on earth for myself and then share that with other people and allow people to decide whether or not they want to create something with me. And it's never going to be in an unequally yoked relationship, right? It's always, we're going to be making decisions as a group as what we want to do. What else could possibly be better than that, right? Where nobody's trying to control one another and all we're doing is just playing. And then, if you're just creating things for each other, then how much better can life be than that? And I believe that's where we're going, because, that's why all these structures are collapsing around us. We call it a spiritual awakening, but it's just becoming more aware of where you're spending your own energy, your own time and energy, and how you might be putting your energy into things that just aren't doing you any good, right? So I will continue to keep doing this and spending my energy on you guys, because you guys are my investment, because I am you and you and me. You are me. We are one. And so I will always invest myself into you. That will be always my primary investment to myself and to each other. That's it. And so you just get in your creative cycle and you just keep creating. So my advice to you, you don't have to listen to my advice, listen to your own advice. But if my advice resonates with you, then just stay creative and create positivity for the people around you. Encourage them to fall out of judgment and get out of those mental conflicts of any kind of illusions of separation. And there's you don't have to feed off of your environment if you don't want to. And if you force yourself to, then eventually you'll get to a place where your heart will open up so big, so large, that nothing could bother you ever again. Nothing possibly could ever bother you. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day. And I'll probably have something else to talk about tomorrow. But I really wanted to share this story because it's part of my story. And all of us, that's all we're here for, right? Is to share our stories with each other and grow together. Until we're just like, I mean, if you think about it, we could be in the stars in 20 years for sure, exploring the universe together. I kind of explain how you could do that in my book. Has to do with, moving from point A to point B, recognizing that it's all just a field and information, and then measuring what's going through the field here compared to where you're at, and then taking the vessel that you're accessing that through, and then moving that vessel from one point in time space to another by basically just moving that signal into another area of signal. It's all this thing. It's like a bigger Rubik's Cube of space-time. Definitely possible. Probably see. I think that they've been doing it. Secret space program has probably already been doing that, because I mean, if you look at the history of experiments in the United States, like the Manhattan experiment, or I think it was the Manhattan Project. No, not the Manhattan Project. It was what was the name of it? I think the Manhattan Project was the nuclear project, the one where the ship disappears and all the sailors kind of get stuck in the vessel when the ship reappears. They just create a really strong magnetic field around an entire ship, and then there's some witnessed accounts of that, but it kind of got covered up because it's just top secret space stuff, right? Something they did in the 50s, I think. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you later.